Are you familiar with the concept of shower thoughts? I am literally recording my shower thoughts right now, as you can tell from my wet hair just out of the shower. I was thinking while I was sudsing up about this week's topic of voice, an intimate point of view, but a voice. And there's a lot of ways we think about voice. For example, if a writer has a strong and distinctive voice, it's very possible that we could take, say, 10 or 15 pieces of writing about the same length, print them out, mix them up, and ask someone familiar with that writer's work, which one is that writer's work? And really, with many good writers, you know their work when you see it. They have ways of expressing themselves. They have perhaps vocabulary, sentence structures. They have little ticks and tells, and there's just, and sometimes, of course, it's the content you're writing about. I mean, if someone's always writing about, how their mother died when they were 4 or whatever, you'll recognize someone's like content voice even. Yeah. So I'm thinking about how if you really have a distinctive voice, your writing could sort of be picked out of a lineup. But I also want to stress that voice is a combination of things. It's not just the content you're drawn to. I would rather write about people than, say, the architecture of a building. That's part of my voice, is my content voice. But there is your vocabulary. Do you use generic, mainstream, common words for everything you're expressing? Honestly, your voice is less distinctive. You could be anyone. But when people do wordplay, or they're really drawn to figurative language, or they just have certain moments of maybe very plain language punctuated, bam, by a big old ubiquitous, and there's like a fancy vocabulary word in there, that is a way of creating personal voice. And I'm just thinking in my real life, regular life, I am someone who enjoys swearing. And I was raised in a household where there was no swearing. My parents were good Protestants, but also sort of provincial. They were both born in 1935, and therefore were raised by parents who were born in the early 1900s. And I think because of that, there's sort of like a Victorian holdover in the values of speech that they had. So basically, there was no swearing in the house I grew up in. And I swore with my friends in high school and college, and I never swore around my own kids when I was raising them. But I think there's something interesting. When my dad died, I was 35. And that is also simultaneously a point where I had a less close relationship with my mother. I decided, for my own preservation, that I needed to keep a lot of distance in that relationship. So basically, I was separate from my parents. And since then, since I was 35, in these last 20 plus years, I swear a lot and I swear all the time. There are, by the way, studies that show the positive psychological and emotional benefits. For example, people who swear have a better pain tolerance. So part of my speaking voice in real life is swearing. That's a vocabulary choice, yeah? But in the shower, I was thinking too about the kinds of voices we as humans are urged to have in certain situations. We all know the way we talk or write changes depending on who the audience is. We are one way with our friends, we are another way with a teacher, this kind of stuff. There's a kind of code switching that goes on. But I think all of us have been cautioned throughout our lives that there's such a thing as an inside voice. Use your inside voice. And an outside voice where you can be louder, where the space can accommodate your bigness. You can holler with your outside voice. With your inside voice, calm, controlled. Don't upset the people around you. There are walls holding us in together. And I was just thinking, wouldn't it be fun and interesting as you are playing around with like discovering what even is my writing voice? Who am I that makes me distinctive? What if you tried writing the same story with an inside voice, where it's told in the whole way of it is it's calm, it's quiet, it's inside voice. And then what if you wrote the same story with an outside voice? I think that would be very fascinating. And the final thing I want to say to you about voice, more than anything, is outside of the stuff I've mentioned already, the truest essence of what someone's voice is, it's the way they view the world. That's the thing that makes you distinctive on the paper. Your specific and special lens for seeing things and how you capture it in your words, that is your ultimate voice. That is the basis of your voice. How do you see the world? So that is something else to consider as you're carrying on writing, through the semester and throughout your life, is when you put something on paper and you look back at it, if you're trying to read it objectively, like you're a reader of your own work, what markers of voice do you see about yourself where you're like, oh yeah, I do that. I like a little wordplay. I don't love figurative language. It feels like I'm trying too hard, but I like a little like alliteration, like da 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 kind of phrase. That's like one of my little tells. But what can I see in my writing that conveys the way I see the world? And honestly, just quickly, I don't really need to answer this, but I would say I think in my writing it shows that I don't really enjoy or appreciate earnestness in other people. So if I'm writing about people and they are very earnest, they're kind of tough for me. I'm a little more irreverent. I appreciate a tinge more like real than nice. And I love a moment to drop like a good beat that might potentially be humorous. Those are some of the things that are my way of viewing the world that would come through in both my spoken and my writing voice. So for yourself, think about all this, huh?